Conversations with Ishiekwene.
Hello. This may be a clear case of reality imitating fiction. Elites at war over property ostensibly acquired by stolen public funds. 3 parties, 2 dead, contesting the ownership of a house on number 79 Randall Street, Randall Avenue in London. The third, a senior advocate, requesting the transfer of the disputed property to himself. Transformed this reality to a blockbuster movie. It's a web of fakery, and it reads like this, I quote, "The death certificate was fabricated by the fake son and the fake uncle of General Useni's fake wife, who also went on to fabricate the obituary of the fake wife, who purportedly died in a road accident between Jos and Abuja." End of quote. So who owns the house that belongs to 3 entities whose common goal is to own this one property? Welcome to Conversation with Azu, our weekly diary on life and politics. Our column is titled Useni's Fight for London House from the Grave Shames Us. Azu, the writer of this column, is joining us via Zoom live today. Hello, Azu.
Hello, Julius. It's a pleasure to be here again with you. Thank you for having me.
All right. You've written a very scintillating article that embarrassed me immensely. I would like to ask straight away, shouldn't the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission be interested in this case beyond the judgment of the British court?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not a lawyer, but if you read the story by Leadership, when the Legal Disciplinary Complaints Committee, I think the reporter approached them to ask whether there is a further lead. Their response was that they could not proceed against any of the affected parties except if there was a formal complaint. But I think that from my limited understanding of the law, there is a basis for both civil and criminal proceedings on the basis of the outcome of this case. But I don't know who the complainant, but obviously somebody will have to complain before any further action can proceed.
The leadership report, which you also cited in your column, quoted a senior advocate who described the judgment of the London court as not an indictment, quote and unquote. So what else is it, or could it be, if it was not an indictment?
Great question. I mean, that for me was an extraordinary interpretation. Incidentally, the respondent, whom you have just quoted, is someone I still hold in very high esteem. Of course, the Dr. Mike Ozekhome, SAN, was the one, in fact, and the respondent in the case also the respondent in the interview, who said that by his reckoning, the judgment was not an indictment. But I find that to be an extraordinary interpretation, to put it mildly. If the case of contrivance, an invention of evidence before a court, is not an indictment, and if these words were used in the judgment of the court itself, then you have to help me understand what an indictment is.
All right, following up on this, I'd like to dial back a little. Nigerian courts in a case of fraud had absorbed and discharged former Delta State Governor James Ibori of corruption charges preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, only for British courts to jail Ibori for 13 years in April 2012. What does this say about our learned silks and our justice system in Nigeria?
I will be very careful, to make, a sweeping statement of the legal system and the learned counsel, both senior and and otherwise. I think that it does quite obviously show that there's a lot of work that we still need to do if the system is to be taken seriously. because the judiciary is a very important arm. It's not the only arm of government, but it's a very important, very, very important arm of government. And we see that obviously in many parts of the world, and especially in what is currently playing out also in the US, where you find that in spite of the extreme measures being taken by the executive arm, you still have some courts and some judges actually holding the executive arm to account. And I believe that we would like to see more of that. Even the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kekere said when she was being sworn in that she recognized that there was a problem of serious trust deficit in the system. So it's not one that is not widely known, but the question is, what are we going to do about it? I think that fundamentally is the question that she pledged to do something about, and which we're still hoping she will do something about. Not alone, but with other officers, with other officers of the court and all those who are part of the judiciary, as well as private citizens as well.
All right, I'll take a break and read an excerpt for the listening pleasure of our audience from this very interesting article. And I'll quote, "In the 2.5 years that the matter was in court, the only thing that seemed real and which the evidence before the judge could support was that General Useni might have bought the house sometime in 1993 under a code name. Everything else was an elaborate web of fakery, from the witnesses, their identities, a carefully court order, email addresses, and medical certificates, including ones issued under the letterhead of an actual Lagos-based hospital." End of quote. So I would... Hello, Azu, are you there?
Yes, I'm listening to you. I can hear you.
So I just asked the question before my final question. What is the implication for this house in dispute as it stands without definite ownership?
Well, one potential implication is forfeiture to the crown. So it becomes one in another.
Not forfeiture to Nigeria.
No, no, no. It just becomes one in the extraordinary chain of ownerless property that the crown will have to possess. So straightforward, under the principle of ownerless goods or ownerless property, I think that this potentially could go to the crown.
A sad one there. And finally, you cited the P&ID case as one instance in which public officials and lawyers conspired with individuals to defraud Nigeria. That brings me to the question you raised about the professional bodies like the Nigerian Bar Association and the Nigerian Medical Association, who, in their silence, don't seem to see anything wrong in their members discrediting them in cases like this.
Well, I think it ought to be a matter of interest to professional groups, because why otherwise are they so called? I mean, and these are officers of the Temple of Justice who practice not just in Nigeria, but one or two of them are also registered to practice in England. So you would expect that the profession, I'm talking now, of course, about the lawyers, but as you say, it goes beyond the lawyers. I mean, there's a hospital in number 10 Jibowu Street in Lagos, that was also mentioned in the chain of forgery, where the medical certificates, including the death certificates, were issued for the fake applicant in this particular case. And you would expect that professional groups like the Nigerian Medical Association would also take it as a matter of interest, because the addresses are given, names of people are mentioned. We are not dealing here. Of course, there is an elaborate web of forgeries and fiction and fake identities, but so are there also clearly mentioned names of real people with real addresses with known identities. So if they say they couldn't do anything about the ghosts, well, there are more than enough known people and persons and characters in this very, sordid saga that the professional groups should be interested in calling into question.
You should be interested in this topic as well. So you can visit us on azuishiekwene.com to read the entire article on the page and other articles as well. Thank you for coming on the show, Azu.
Thanks for having me once again, Julius. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye for now.
Conversations with Azu Ishiekwene.